Lléname, Santo Espíritu, y fluye. Mi refugio y mi escudo eres tú, exaltado por siempre eres tú. Lléname, Santo Espíritu, y fluye, fluye, fluye. Fluye, fluye, en tu gloria quiero estar. Fluye, fluye. Espíritu fluye en mí, Espíritu fluye en mí. Fluye, fluye, en este lugar. Fluye, fluye, en tu gloria quiero estar. Fluye, fluye. Espíritu fluye en mí, Espíritu fluye en mí. Mi confianza está en ti, Cristo vivo estás en mí, por siempre te adoraré, tu gracia eterna es, en tu presencia quiero estar, y tu grandeza proclamar. Espíritu fluye hoy en mí. Fluye, fluye, ven y llena este lugar. Fluye, fluye, en tu gloria quiero estar. Fluye, fluye, Espíritu fluye.
Welcome to Glory to God podcast. This is your host, Jay Samariba. And today I have a very special guest. Not only is he a dear friend, but he's an amazing photographer. Him and I go way back from the middle school days, and I tell you, it's crazy to see where he's at. And he's worked so hard. He's so detail oriented. I had the pleasure of having him shoot our Glory to God video, that video on the intro back in the day. And it's a memory that I'm going to have for the rest of my life and for my kids to have and my grandkids. So I'm very honored today to have Othello Banaci with us today. Welcome everyone, Othello, to the stage.
What's up, bro?
What's up, Othello? Man, I was so excited when you accepted this
Of
invite. I was like, yes, I get to have Othello
course,
come on,
man.
man. And I'm
Of
super
course, of
excited. So,
course.
for those who saw, you obviously see, man, you've been doing photography. You're so great at what you do. You're so oriented. So, what sparked that love for photography?
It's crazy. Back in like the Cresthaven days, which is our elementary school we went to. My mom used to give me a little disposable camera at the end of the year, right? And like, she had no direction. She would just hand it to me, and then I would just like go around and just like snap pictures. And that was like my intro into it, right? Like telling these stories. Like a lot of things that I do come from my mom. Like she's the goat, right? Like,
Yeah.
but she doesn't really talk. Like my mom doesn't talk, or she doesn't really express much. But like in terms of like style,
Wow.
photography, art, like a lot of
Mm.
stuff comes from her.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing, man. And I agree. Moms are the goat.
She got it.
We they don't speak sometimes much, but we just get so much from them. and we love him to
So
death.
much, so much. I
Hmm.
mean, my dad is really good with his hands, right? Like
Yeah.
he's like in terms of like construction and things like that, and like building stuff. So like that in terms of like building a story, building a narrative, like
Hmm.
that's kind of where that comes in. But a lot of like the creative like comes from my mom,
Yeah.
and just
No.
like that natural passion.
For sure, for sure. We definitely get, I
Hmm.
think, a little bit of for everything, a little bit from each one. So I'm agreement, man. I get some things from my mom. There's certain times
Hmm.
where I'll cry and be like, dang it, I am my mom's son. Lord, why am I? But, but then there's certain things I get from my dad. I'm just like, okay, I know who I got that from. But that's
Right,
amazing to hear.
right.
So when did you pick up your first gig? How was it doing your first official gig, photo shoot or something?
Okay, so sheesh. My first gig, I think it was 2010
Oh wow.
or like 2011 maybe. It was in New York.
Wow.
It was for it was like millinery, which is like hats and accessories. Like when I left school, I worked in fashion. Like I was a fashion intern.
Yeah.
So I worked in like hats and accessories. And one of the guys, Albrizio, they were
Hmm.
having like a fashion show type thing. So that was like my first like real gig. Like
Oh.
after I had started like learning a little bit about photography. So here I am like going to New York
Hmm.
to like shoot this little fashion show and cut like some video. But like it looks so bad now when I look at it.
Oh.
But yeah.
It's a learning experience, but man, going to New York, I know that must be a lot
Mhm,
of fun. I know you've gotten to travel. Any spot in
mhm.
particular that's like taking your heart away that you travel to for shooting?
For shooting, yo, Miami.
Mm. Yeah.
Miami, Little Havana.
Oh, okay.
Yo, Miami is the way the light hits things, it's almost like golden.
Wow. I bet.
Yeah, man. We went down there to shoot some cigars for
Oh,
Ocho Cinco.
yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
that joint was.
it was clean. Those pictures were clean. And Ocho Cinco was definitely a big football player growing up when we were in high school, man. Ocho Cinco with the Bengals. But that's amazing that
Hmm.
you had that opportunity, and you've obviously shot with big, big artists. And I love that you when we spoke last week, there was something
Hmm.
that you shared even now that it's a philosophy that you really have bought into and you live by, which is having fun. I was talking to you about my
Hmm.
son, and the advice you gave was just like make sure he's always having fun, just because he loves baseball. But you said the one thing you got to make sure he has fun, and I tell you that philosophy just for
Hmm.
a week that you told me made a difference in my
Hmm.
son just telling him. So why is that philosophy so big for you?
So like this goes back to the like my basketball days, right? Like I played Division One. I was a walk on at Ball State,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really get a chance to play, right? And my coach would just like be riding me because like I was like more of a practice player. I was a walk on. They're not paying me a scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
but I was determined to play, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't fun anymore. So
Mm.
after practice, I would go and work out like while the we had these dancers called the co-red dancers, right? So the co-red dancers would be practicing, and I'm in here like going balls to the walls, like just going in, right, doing all these drills, and I could just see the look on their face. They're like, "But you're on the bench," and then I would like give them a look back, and I was like, "But I'm on the bench." Like that's why I'm like that's why I'm here. Like I'm here to get on the court, right? And it was not fun for me anymore because the goal, right, and my reason for doing like my reason behind my motivation was just like out of like pain, out of hurt. It wasn't like fun. Like basketball is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
People do it, they do it, when you get older, when you're younger, And at this point in time, it was at a point where I was just like, I need I need you to give me this opportunity. Like my life depends on it. Like I put everything into this one little basket and it just wasn't fun anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it's like had I had fun and had I had like appreciated the teammates I had around me,
Right.
and instead of always trying to to get better, to just like soak up the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Walking out for your first game is like the craziest thing ever, right? And if you could keep that same mentality throughout your career, like that's where it's at. So like definitely have fun because if you
Yeah.
don't, then you're just gonna be miserable.
Yeah. And
You know, we're blessed to be able to create.
amen.
So why not?
Amen. And I feel like that philosophy even applies to faith. We sometimes get so caught in serving, so get so caught into
Hmm.
certain things, it becomes overwhelming. You become like, oh, this is like a second job. This is,
Hmm.
and we forget that one, we're serving God, which is a privilege and a blessing, but you can have fun with it. And I think that's a big, when you said those two words, it's so profound. Like I said,
Mm.
and I appreciate you giving me that wisdom you shared with me. So obviously, going back to photography,
Hmm.
what I would say, what makes it so fun?
So when I was younger, right,
Hmm.
the things we loved to do would be to listen to my dad tell stories, right?
Oh yeah.
And like, bedtime stories was a thing.
Hmm.
So my job, I get to tell stories for a living.
Amen.
I get to meet people for a living.
Mm.
I get to connect with people for a living.
Mm.
So obviously it's more technical than just like hanging out,
Hmm.
but on the base level, it's just connecting with humans.
Yeah.
And that is fun. So imagine like being in the cafeteria, freshman year, and you're an extrovert, and there's all these people everywhere you get to meet and hang out, and there's all these little subcultures, and you have a free pass to all these subcultures because you have a tool.
Mm.
And that's literally what my job is.
Mm. That's amazing, man. That's an amazing way to put it. I think that's just amazing. Like you said, you gotta have fun with your passion. And I think I could say, I mean, like I said, we used to play basketball all the time. I saw how hard you worked on the court.
Oh
And
man.
man, we used to go to the local rec center. We'd be leaving, and you'd stay. And I'd be like, "Yo, is Othello gonna go with us or
Uh,
what?" And he's like, "No, I gotta shoot my 50." And I'm like,
Not hopping, yeah,
"Oh,"
man. I
and
was
I'll
not
be
hopping on the bus, dog.
like,
That Hillendale 20,
"Yeah, Hellendale
the 20
20."
bus, yeah, man. That
Back,
20 bus was not hopping on there.
no, we didn't have
Like,
we didn't have
man,
smart passes. We used to share that little paper so we
mm-mm.
could get on the bus for free. Man,
Yeah, man, I remember those days,
yeah.
dog.
But when
But
did you?
for like,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
go on. I mean, I was basically gonna say that like back then it was just like it was always about work, right? Like you had to earn
Hmm.
your keep.
Yeah.
Even now, it's like earn your keep. Like I can't expect to shoot, this caliber of work if I'm not putting in the
Hmm.
hours. So like back then I had to earn it. And like
Yeah.
I had a coach who told me I would never play Division 1 and that I was only able to play Division 1 or Division 2. I mean
Mm.
Division 3 or Division 2,
Mm.
right? So from that day on, it was ingrained in my brain that like I don't care how I'm getting to Division 1, I'm playing Division 1.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what you tell me. I don't care
Hey.
what kind of labels you give me. This is what's happening.
No.
Right? Like I didn't get a chance to play like that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Eh,
I
but
shot some free throws. I got into a couple games, right? But,
preseason counts.
I didn't go off.
Preseason counts.
I didn't go off, right? I didn't like go for 40
Hey.
and then, hit the game winner.
No, but
So,
it's you are. I know one of my best friends and obviously close friend of you, Pablo. We talk about the days and like, just
Pablo.
like man, like Othello, you are I would say a legend of Oakview. You were the baller of Oakview,
Oh,
and
View, man.
but the fact that you were a walk on to
Hmm.
Division One just speaks volume of your hard work that you were
But here's the
dedicated.
craziest part, though.
Oh, tell me.
Craziest part is I wasn't even supposed to be a walk on at first.
Ah.
So there was a situation back in the day, right? My coach was talking to a specific school,
Mm-hmm.
and the head coach at the time didn't really know too much about my game outside of high school.
Mm.
So he like there was a girl, one of my friends went to that school, and I like randomly got a phone call. She was like, "Yeah, my coach was asking about you." And I was like, "How's my recruitment in the hands of of you right now?" But it was interesting. But like that was my last like that was my Hail Mary right there.
Yeah.
Like I actually got there, the coach left, I got kicked, I like didn't make the team.
Mm.
Like, I didn't make the team at first. So I did all these sacrifices. I like went to summer school, and I get cut because they choose someone else,
Mm.
right? And I'm just in the gym as usual every day, just training as though like I'm going to practice,
Mm.
right? And somehow that guy didn't pan out. And then the coach was like, "I'll see you in practice."
Mm.
And like, yo, I like cried. Like I was like, yo, this is real. I can go back and show my face in public.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
man, you work super hard. We used to love playing basketball. I learned a lot from you. I'm not the greatest baller, I'll tell you that straight up. But yes, I enjoyed watching you play at the high school games, man. We had some crazy games. But
We
where
did.
did you
We did.
feel in those moments, like you said? Because obviously there was probably a moment of discouragement. Where did you feel
Mhm.
like God had to, you almost had to lean on God in those moments?
The transition between basketball and art. That
Mm.
was the biggest transition. Because I left school. Um, I was mentally drained. And I was like, Coach, like, I've been doing this. I'm trying to do this. He looked at me and he was like, You'll never play.
Mm.
Like, when it comes to you playing, that's never going to happen. So I was like, I tried everything possible and it
Mm-hmm.
still wasn't enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I mean, I might have gotten to court, who knows? But at that time I started dabbling into fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a risk, a
Mm.
serious risk.
Yeah.
I left school, like mind you, I'm playing Division 1 basketball.
Yeah.
I'm a sophomore going into my junior year. I leave school.
Mm.
I go to New York to do an unpaid internship.
Ah.
Yo, my parents were so blown. Like my dad was so blown. How do you tell someone who's a bio major playing basketball, right? That that it's okay to go pursue fashion, and he has no idea what like what's going on, right? So I'm like, oh man, this is real. So I mean, I had no money, I
Yeah.
had no direction,
Mm.
I had very little support,
Mm.
but I had an idea,
Yeah.
and the group of people that I was with at the time, like my circle of friends, like they like kind of supported it a little bit. Um, but oh man, I think about it and I'm like, that was a bold move, but God got me through it. That is the only way because it was so radical,
Mm.
so radical. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
I can
it was
only
something.
imagine, man. Just, I mean, that, like you said, parents, and I can imagine just leaving school. And also, you, like I said, you were really passionate about basketball. I know that was a dream, but
Right,
super
right.
passionate. I mean, so, but you realize, and then some of us, I think, forget or maybe don't realize or ignore that, you know
Hmm.
what? I can also God can also lead me elsewhere, and God led you, but it was a risk, a
Yeah.
scary risk. I can't imagine doing unpaid internship, man.
Yo,
But
bold. I somehow got a refund check. Like it was weird, man. Like I somehow had like the dean's number to the school. And like it was crazy. I'm like calling the dean, like, yo, like this was going on. I need you to hook this up. And like it worked.
mm,
And this was the first time that like, I was encouraged by like
yeah,
my circle at the time to like do this. And I'm
yeah,
like, how crazy is it that the dean is signing off on this thing? I'm getting a refund check
mm,
so I can pay for like housing and like food because I was living real rough when
yeah,
when I was in New York, right? Like we had we had a studio, and in the studio we had a water fountain. So I would fill up that water fountain at the end of the day, and that's the water I would drink for the rest of the day.
oh
Like that
man,
was my water source, like a little aluminum bottle. And like I
man,
would do like a cheeseburger, like maybe two cheeseburgers a day. Like I spend like $2-3 a day to eat.
mm.
Like it was
Oh,
it was a thing, man.
it
It definitely got me through it. And when I look back,
mm,
I think of the story of Joseph,
mm,
like from Genesis, like went through all these trials, went to
mm.
jail, all these things, and then
Yes.
came back, was like, yeah, I'm good. God got me. I'm like, yo, he got
Oh
it.
man,
He got
that's
it.
that's amazing, Othello, man. Just that was back in the day when McDoubles were a dollar. Now they're a big $1.50. So McDonald's getting a little
Yo,
pricey. So I don't know.
I mean, I was at Burger King, right? Because we didn't have
Okay.
like the McDonald's in Manhattan was like kind of packed. The Burger King was pretty chill,
Yeah.
so I didn't trip out too much.
Yeah.
But also, I made the mistake of not buying a month pass
Mm.
for the train, and I
Mm.
was just putting in money every time.
Yeah, man.
I lost like $400 in the first month.
Nah, things you learn, but
Hmm.
Othello, man, I think you brought up an amazing story with an amazing connection to a story like you said of Joseph, where Joseph
Hmm.
went after trial, and it was humbling.
Everything.
It was humbling, and then also it'll provide the growth to God to elevate Him
Hmm.
and to see where you're at. That I would have never thought that. I would have never thought of a person in the studio eating 2 cheeseburgers a day, because you were just so detail oriented. You're so
Man.
great at what you do. So that's amazing to hear that God brought you from there. But you obviously said there's certain things that, yeah, the pass, that monthly pass, you probably wish you would have done differently. What piece of advice would you give
Hmm.
to upcoming photographers or younger photographers? Because, I work in a high school, and
Hmm.
although I do encourage my kids to get education, further their education, some of them
Hmm.
also pick careers early, and photography is
Right.
a big one that a lot of them are choosing.
Right.
So, what piece of advice would you give them?
Mm. Well, I have a few things.
Okay,
The first thing is shoot film.
okay,
Get a film camera, shoot on film
mm,
because you get a certain amount of images.
mm-hmm,
You can't look at them,
mm,
and you have to pay per image. It's not like a memory card where you can keep formatting it and
mm-hmm,
shoot again and see what you're doing. Like it's very analog and it's very expensive.
mm,
So like you really want to learn, pick up some film and shoot that way and pay
mm,
for it yourself.
mm,
Like I was spending like my last $50
mm.
to develop some film and the whole roll be bad. And I'm like, and it'd be like a set of rolls, right? Because like, a roll doesn't necessarily cost $50. But if you're doing a
mm-hmm,
few rolls, you're getting scans,
mm-hmm,
it like adds up, right? The second thing is to fail as much as you possibly can. I'm not
mm,
saying go out and like purposely take bad photographs, right?
yeah,
But like really be open to like taking an L.
mm,
Like even to this day, I'm very open to like I took an L last week, like a mean L,
Yeah.
And me and the stylist were talking, and she was like, "You're taking this very well," and I was just like, "It is what it is, man." Like I've 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 fallen on my face so many times
Mm,
that like my jaw has strengthened. Like
mm,
so, definitely fail a bunch and get in the gym. So get in the gym in the sense of like practice. You got to
mm,
get your hours in. When they say 10,000 hours, that doesn't mean like you living on the earth.
mm,
Like I could have a camera and be working for 10 years and still not get my hours.
mm,
Like you got to go out, practice, shoot, find people, test out things, do personal projects, go back, do it again, test out lighting, constant
mm,
lighting, strobe lighting, different cameras, different lenses, right? And you're only getting 10,000 hours for one thing,
mm,
right? You're not like, I'm not getting 10,000 hours for video and 10,000 hours for video, 10,000
mm,
hours for video. You know what I mean? So, like, I have to work my hours doing one specific thing. So if I want to get better at editing, I need to sit down at the computer for 10,000 hours and
mm,
edit, right? Or if I need to get better in studio photography, I need to shoot in the studio for 10,000 hours.
mm. Yeah.
Like so like when I wanted to get a jump shot, right? I'd go to the gym and I would just shoot,
Yeah.
right? I would just get in the gym and just shoot as many shots as I could, right? For that muscle memory.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Because when you're getting on some of these shoots, you might have people 10 minutes,
Mm,
45 minutes, an hour. You might have someone for 2 minutes. If you're dealing with a celebrity and they got somewhere place to be, like I shot Ryan Leslie and he had to go and perform.
mm,
So I think we had him for 40 minutes
mm.
and we had to do like 6 looks or something like that. Like something crazy.
Yeah.
And like, just like that, it was about like, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to like this? How is he feeling? Can we make this work? You know what I
Mm,
mean? So a lot of times, like you're dealing with people and you're dealing with technical things. So you really have to be in the gym and practice those things, like left hand layups, you know?
yeah.
So,
No,
yeah.
man. I think that's amazing advice, Othello. I think, like you said, putting it into practice. I think when we look back, I mean, I look back. I mean, you practice all the time basketball. I can't say I know, so I know for sure you practice. But there's certain things in my life that I'm just like, man, I wish I would have practiced at an earlier age. Build that discipline,
Hmm.
build that routine of practicing, practice,
Right.
practice, but still having fun with it, like you said, but practicing.
Hmm.
And I think that's the big piece of advice that we forget. Like this pandemic for me, I believe was a
Hmm.
perfect time to practice.
Hmm.
We were all at home. We could just go outside. We could just find those things and just practice our craft and get better at it. So I think I
Hmm.
definitely agree with that one and agree with all of them, man. And it's crazy to
Yeah.
see where you've grown. And like you said, going from where you were at to now, it's amazing. So
Hmm.
how has faith been a big component of your life?
Man, I think it's like faith has shifted the way I think,
Mm,
right? Like I used to think that I could do certain things, right?
mm-hmm,
Like, oh yeah, I have the talent, I have the skill, but if it's not God's will for you, like it's not happening,
amen.
you know? Like there's so many things that could have happened to me or so many things that could have slipped through the cracks,
Mm,
but they didn't,
mm,
right? So I think it's more so me not falling in love with the way I view life
mm,
and having to accept how God views life. So it's like I'm a photographer now, right? I could be a janitor in 2 years, right?
mm,
Not saying like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna quit. But if there's a calling,
mm,
then that might shift what I do,
mm,
right? Not saying I'll just stop taking pictures,
yeah.
right? But it's bigger than a talent, an object, a tool. I spent 9 years trying to be a basketball player,
Mm,
right? And then I turn around and spend, 8 to 11 years in photography and video,
Mm.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you see God shape so many people
Mm.
in his word. So it's like you have to be open to being shaped.
Mm.
And like the way we think of the world and the way he views the world are two different things.
Amen, man. I love what you said about shaping. And I think that's the thing,
Hmm.
Othello. Since I've known you, you've always been humble, laughing, been always a fun guy, and you allow God to humble you or mold you
That's for sure.
and shape you since day one. Definitely, and you see where God is elevating you now, working with the people you're working with, and just being able to do what you love, and at the same time further His kingdom by showing people God's love through the way you are. I think, man, when people run
Hmm.
into you, you can say, man, Othello's a loving person. Like I said, me and Paulo, we go way back, and we say, man, Othello.
Hmm.
So we love
Pablo.
seeing you, man. So
Pablo,
I
man.
know this ain't.
Pablo is one of those dudes, man. I love that. Like Pablo, man. I hear Pablo and I'm like, there's only one Pablo in my life, dog. There's only one, right? Like Pablo, man, like he was the one dude, right? Like Pablo is so interesting to me is because like I feel like Ophir had all these like different dudes, right?
Mm,
And it didn't really matter who you were and like what you did outside of the neighborhood. Because
mm,
once you got in the neighborhood, like everyone's number was one, right?
yeah.
You go outside
Mm,
and it doesn't matter like how much money, followers, whatever the case may be. Like
yeah.
you are this and you are that. Like you from Oakview. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's just
Eh,
how I roll. And I feel like with Pablo and like a lot of the dudes, like little Tico, like Tico's a
yeah.
grown Tico's a grown man now, right? Like I'm like what? And like I just think about those things. Like there was a little Elmer. Like there's all these like little cats
Yeah.
that were in Oakview, and it's just like
Mm,
you never know which direction you
nah.
know you're gonna be in, man.
Nah, man, and I love how I really felt like we had a friendship that I mean that like I said, our neighborhood, but just God protected us and God was with us. I truly believe it, and God is with you, man. I can't wait to have you back on the show. It was been a pleasure and an honor to have you tonight, Othello.
Always.
And you share so much wisdom. And again, definitely check out Othello on Instagram. His webpage is othellobanaci.com. And I tell you, man, he has so you'll be amazed at his work. So again, Othello,
Thank you, bro.
it's been a pleasure to have you. Much love, and I can't wait to bring you back. All right, thank you for everyone tuning in.
Thank you, bro.
Definitely make sure to follow and share this episode with everyone. Take care.